Hello everyone, it's Anahita Rao back again with another video. So today what I wanted to speak about, and something that I've been requested to speak about, which is a timing of a serious relationship or marriage, when that happens, and the beginning of the relationship or marriage, when does that enter your life? And this is also actually a very popular consultation that I offer, which is called soulmate meeting. So often you hear people saying, I met this person and they were great, but the timing was all wrong, or the timing is perfect and I just can't seem to meet the right person. Well, what I would suggest is that there's no such thing as a right person and the wrong timing. Only the right person can come at the right time. What happens is that we have our own sort of fixed ideas of what the right person looks like, and the definition of who they are and where they're from. So we end up missing the fact that they're actually a right person. So I would suggest that you have to take a hint from the right timing to see who comes into your life. And then if you are in the right timing for a relationship, a serious relationship or marriage, then pay special attention to the people that are coming into your life. They may not be the perfect fit, and they may not actually even be in alignment with what your idea of a perfect match is, but they would likely be the right person. So have another look at those people. A successful relationship, we all know, depends on two things. One is, of course, finding the right person, and then being the right person. So in other words, you have to also be ready for that relationship. I mean, we often create blockages to relationships when the timing is wrong for us, and we don't realize we're doing that. But there are multiple reasons for doing that, and what I would suggest is that you be okay with that. So if you are experiencing a time in your life where you couldn't be bothered with a relationship, or you're just not in the frame of mind to you don't have the patience to get to know people, then I would just say do other things. Put your energies elsewhere, so at least you remain positive and optimistic, rather than chasing down something or someone when you obviously don't feel that it's the right time for you, and you will actually intuitively know that anyway. So now the question is, when will you meet someone who has that relationship vibe, who has that serious vibe? Someone who you can get serious with, someone who you can settle down with, who you can build a future with, who you can get married to. So let's divide the parameters of timing into two separate categories here. One is going to be the dasha sequence, what you're going through, and that's obviously depending on your personal birth chart. And the second, of course, will be transit. So let's look at both of them. Okay, so first I want to start with the dasha sequence, because I think that's actually slightly more important than transit, because you have to have a dasha, and then the transit will activate that which is promised in the dasha. Yeah? Okay, now if you are going through the dashas of the two marriage significators, the two marriage karakas, one is Venus and one is Rahu, then this, of course, increases the chance of a relationship entering your life. You could be going through the dasha of the second lord, the seventh lord, or the 11th lord. Then this is also a good time for a relationship. Any connection with the Mahadasha Lord and the Antardasha Lord with your ascendant ruler, 7th house, or 7th house ruler, and I would look at both the D1 and the D9 chart here, and even any planets that are associated with them, so association by position, aspect, conjunction, anything like that. For example, let's say you're going through the dasha of Rahu and Rahu's sun. Rahu is the Mahadasha Lord, and then Sun is the Antardasha. And in your D9 chart, you've got the Sun sitting in your 7th house, but actually the Sun isn't promising marriage from the standpoint. I mean, it's not the 2nd Lord, it's not the 7th Lord, it's not the 11th Lord, but it happens to be sitting in the 7th house in your D9, or it happens to be sitting in the 7th house of your D1 chart. Then of course that is a promising time for a relationship. The other thing that I always do with every chart is I look at least 3 different dasha systems, if not more, depending on what applies to you. So of course there's a Vimshottri, but I also look at 2 other ones. One is called Yogini and one is called Jaradasha, because I find them to be very indicative of when a relationship comes. And in fact, sometimes I would say that you can see the relationship promise in Yogini even when it's kind of very, very mildly indicated by Vimshottri, or not at all indicated by Vimshottri. So I definitely look at Yogini sort of to confirm. So in Yogini, if you are in a period of Rahu or Venus, a relationship is very likely to come into your life. And the periods that tend to give relationship, I've noticed, are Rahu-Venus, Rahu-Saturn, or Venus-Rahu and Saturn-Rahu. Again, as you can see, both Rahu and Venus are playing a pivotal role here. I also look at Gemini's Charadasha. So if you're going through the dasha of a sign that contains your Dharakaraka, which is the sign with the lowest degrees in your birth chart, and it's also the sign, it's also the planet that represents your spouse, then yeah, I mean, surely, you know, that's a good time for a relationship or marriage. And there's various ways to look at it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a sign where the Dharakaraka is placed in that sign. It could be you've got Dharakaraka placed 7th from that sign, or it's aspecting that sign, or Venus, the marriage Karaka, is 7th from the sign, or sitting in the sign of the dasha that you're going through. So there's various ways of looking at it. I also look at conditional dashas if they apply to you. For instance, let's say you have the 10th Lord in the 10th house, then the Chaturshiti Sama dasha will apply to you. There has been research specifically on this dasha that indicates when the likelihood of you entering a relationship. So for example, if you're going through the dasha of the planets that are connected to the 4th house, the 4th Lord, 7th house or 7th Lord, then the marriage happens because you're activating the 10th house, which is what this dasha represents. So that is very important to look at, just to confirm what's being promised in the other dashas. Now remember, you must have a qualifying dasha, as I mentioned, the examples that I gave for marriage, before you look at the transit, because the transit is just going to sort of pinpoint the timing further. So if you've got a qualifying dasha, then you would check the transit to narrow down the timing. So by transit, let's look at that. If Sun is transiting the 1st, 5th, 7th or 11th house, that's a good time for a relationship. And for women, I would say look at where Mars is transiting. If it's in the 1st, 5th or 7th, then you're actually coming into contact with very masculine energy, and so that's something to look out for. The placement of planets and transiting planets over them. For example, if you're having a Venus return, or if Mars is transiting over Venus. The other thing, of course, the most popular one, is a double transit of Jupiter and Saturn. So both Jupiter and Saturn are activating either the Lagna, the 7th house, the Lagna Lord, or the 7th Lord. Jupiter and Saturn could be aspecting your natal Venus or your Dharmakaraka, which again is the planet with the lowest degrees. Jupiter in transit could be activating Mars or Venus. Lagna Lord and the 7th Lord are making a contact in the transit. So for example, let's say you are a Leo Lagna and your sun is placed in your birth chart, your sun is placed in Gemini. Well, at the moment, Saturn, being your 7th Lord, is actually making a contact with Gemini by a direct aspect. So that's an example of the Lagna Lord and 7th Lord making a contact in transit. And it could also be that perhaps your sun isn't sitting in Gemini, but when the sun moves to Gemini in transit and Saturn is then in Sagittarius as it is right now, then of course, again, that's the same thing. It's the Lagna Lord and 7th Lord making a contact. Lagna Lord transiting in 7th house, or the 7th Lord transiting the Lagna. That's also a good time for marriage or relationship. Rahu aspecting 5th, 7th, 11th, or the natal Venus, or the 7th Lord, in either the D1 or the D9 Navamsa chart. And this is also a good time for a relationship. Remember, Rahu is a natural marriage karaka, so it has the power to give when Jupiter fails to do so and Saturn fails to do so. Rahu has the power to definitely give a relationship. And here's one little thing to kind of, it's sort of a tip that I learned from a very, very renowned astrologer. If your Atma Karaka is a lord of where your moon is placed, then you are going to follow your soul anyway to make choices in life, especially when it comes to relationships. Something to look out for. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you found it helpful. If you did like the video, please do subscribe below, and feel free, of course, to leave your thoughts and comments. Thank you.